Well, again, welcome everybody. Dr. Mark Sturm. I'll be presenting the Bridging from the Gap webinar today, Selling from the Chair. Now, we've only got about 15 minutes to go through this. It'll be a little bit of a high overview. I can literally talk for days if you give me enough time. So first off, I want a quick disclosure here. Obviously, we're optometrists. We've made an oath. I want to make it very clear that we are obviously going to do what's best for the patient. But today we're going to talk about how to capture the sale and make some money. And in my opinion, the sales process starts with the doctor. And if that's something that you've not thought about, it's good that you're here. So what I want to discuss today is a couple things. First, we want to get the patient to acknowledge the need for a new RX. If they come in and say, I need a new RX, boom, you've already checked that off the list, done. But that's typically not the case. We're going to go over alternative corrections, second pairs, how to discuss options, upgrades. We're going to discuss gaining and maintaining trust, which I think is super important, especially when you're coming from a sales approach. And of course, capturing the sale. So first thing that I like to do, and I don't think this is mentioned very often, is some of the refractive techniques. Going through the refraction is, for me, one of the first things as far as the sales approach. So I like to take that light level down. The pupils get a little bit bigger. You get a little bit more of that peripheral aberration. The pinhole, you're kind of reducing a little bit of that pinhole effect. In my opinion, this does make a difference. For those of you refracting at full light levels, feel free to continue to do so, but I feel like I get a little bit more of a difference with the lower light levels. One of the big things that I do specifically is during my refraction, let's say I'm doing the right eye, and obviously I have the habitual prescription sitting there. I know what that is. I finished my right eye. I know what that manifest is. Especially for those patients say, no, I'm good, I don't really need a new prescription. There's a difference there. I like to show them a monocular difference. Let's say it's a couple clicks of Sil, a couple clicks of Sphere. I'll click them out, and then I'll click them back in, and I'll wait for a reaction. Most of the time, it's, oh man, that looks great. That's the difference. That's your old and new. And doing this binocular actually makes a big difference, in my opinion, because it's one eye. They don't have that second eye to kind of fill in some of that blur, and they've already started convincing themselves, I might actually need a new RX here. Of course, I'm going to continue my refraction, the old versus new, tried and true. I like to show them the old prescription versus new. And I typically just do use the 4-opter and their habitual glasses. They put on their old glasses. I say, take a look at that 2015, 2020 line. Give them 3, 4, 5 seconds. They pull it off. I bring that 4-opter down. Bam, I usually wait for that reaction. Usually it's, hey, this looks a lot better. I want to know what they think. And again, I may, maybe they don't notice a big difference, but they remember that monocular comparison I did, because maybe the right eye or the left eye is not great, but the other eye is good. And so I've given them a couple different views. And at this point, hopefully I've convinced them, hey, there is some benefit to updating this prescription. One of the big things I also do is trial frame. I'm a big believer in this. Some people feel like it just takes too much time, but to me, it really, really, I think, drives home the need for that new RX. Let's say, for instance, they come in, they lost their glasses, broke their glasses. I want them to see old versus new. Maybe I've got their old habitual prescription in the computer. I'll pop those lenses into a trial frame. I'll put up their old prescription. I'll pull down that 4-opter for the new prescription. Bam, I'm showing them the difference. Otherwise, they don't get to see that. They don't appreciate it. They might not understand. Some people ask, well, how did my numbers change? I don't even go through that. I say, well, let me show you. They don't know what numbers mean. They'll try to talk to you about numbers, which I think is funny sometimes, but we just need to show them. They need to see what it looks like. Computer prescriptions, obviously we do a ton of those. And if you're not trial framing in front of a computer, you're missing out. We do a ton of multiple sales. I put them right in my chair. I Google dog, I pull up Wikipedia, I get them at their normal length, and they put their prescription on. I pull that away, I throw a trial frame in, I set it for that exact focal point, and bam, wait for that reaction. And I let them give me their feedback, and they say, this is great. Again, getting them thinking about what they want to do. which obviously is the best way to do it. I can tell them all day of what I want to do, but if they've convinced themselves, you're winning. New presbyopes, this sometimes is the hardest thing to tackle. Most of these come in, they're in denial. They don't want to be in what they think is going to be a line bifocal, make them look like their parents. I will typically do a trial frame and I'll throw some loose +1s or whatever in front of them. I'll wait for that reaction. And obviously they're going to say, oh, that looks a lot better. And then I tell them what I'm doing. So they've already confirmed that I've made things better for them before I told them, hey, I'm showing you what it's going to look like with the bifocal, because that wall will come up already. So again, I like them to confirm that themselves. And of course, we discuss, we get into, the need for it. A lot of times I'll go through, let's say you've got a 45-year-old, I'm probably fine, I'm good. But, I like to discuss, the fact that reading prescription is going to get worse and worse and worse. And with that lower reading amount, you're going to be able to adapt to this a lot easier. If you wait another 10 years and jump into a higher prescription, you're going to have a lot harder time adapting. And I actually feel that that's true based on all the interactions I've had. And then, of course, line versus progressives, those questions are going to come up. Let them know, no, you can do the no line. You're not going to stuck in that line. Another thing I really like to mention, and this is important, is some patients feel like once they go into glasses, they have to stay in glasses. I'm a progressive. I don't want to wear these all the time. I make it very clear, listen, you don't have to wear these all the time. You put them on when you want to. And when you do put them on, you can see everything. And when you want to take them off, you can take them off. For some reason, patients have it in their head that once they pull this trigger, they're stuck with glasses and bifocals forever. And so I like to make sure that they understand that. Obviously, your basic, typical consultative talk, you're going to go through, progressives. You're going to discuss their need for computer glasses if they're an accountant. They work outside or they're reading all day because they're retired. I mean, identifying those with consultative type questions and giving them solutions, I think, is super important. They also need to know that you can do with the prescription that you've made, you can put them in anything. Some people don't realize that. They think they need a separate prescription for sunglasses or a separate prescription for reading. Not necessarily. Now that computer prescription, obviously, but I've hopefully identified the need for that in our those consultative questions. Another thing I like to do is if they've got a vision plan if they've come in with a vision plan, obviously none of us are real big fans of that, but I typically will kind of pump them up like, oh, you've got a great plan. This will, cover part of your glasses today. And they also have some discounts on the second pair. And so that kind of leads into some things. There's something about having a benefit, not using it, or getting a deal and just passing up. It just drives people crazy. That's why you go to Costco and you might just walk out with a 5-gallon bucket of mayonnaise. It just was just too good of a deal. So there's a psychological component to that as well. Another thing I'll do is, it may come up in this consultative conversation that, they may or may not want to reuse a frame. I'm all for that. I'm not going to tell them no. Sometimes I'll bring that up if I know that there's a budgetary restraint. Say, listen, you can get a new pair. You can reuse those frames there for your computer. You're good. And what I found out is these patients go out in the optical with the intent of reusing a frame, and they buy 2 anyway. Another component, though, that I'll also mention, if they have high RX or something and they don't have a backup, we'll discuss that as well and why. If you lose those, what are you going to do? They don't know. I mean, obviously, update your glasses, take these, put them in a drawer in case something happens. And then next year, if you want to reuse a frame, you're great. You're good to go. And so just, going through that thought process with them makes a big difference. Progressives. I like to discuss, if these things make sense. Obviously, I don't go through all of these things. You're judging your patient, you're reading them based on what they need. But, adaptations. Let's say it's a new progressive. I talk about different levels. Like, listen, there's different levels of progressives. There's kind of entry, mid, and high. The high level, they're going to be more expensive, but they're going to be easier to get used to. So identifying, acknowledging the fact that, it does cost more, but you're going to get that extra benefit, I think lowers that barrier, the barrier that they put up sometimes. And that sense that you're trying to sell to them. Branding type of progressives, I don't really get into this unless it's specifically brought up. If they say, hey, I'm an Averalux, I take this as an opportunity to discuss, listen, we've got, our house brand is just as good, if not better. It's going to cost you less. If you try it and don't like it in 30 days, no big deal. You come back, give us another, pay the difference, and you're good. And so that gives them kind of a no risk opportunity to try what I consider just as good, if not better, for less cost. And so they see me as someone saving them money, giving them a good product as well. And again, I'm kind of building a little bit of trust there as well. Alternatives, no one wants to be in that dreaded bifocal, or most don't anyway. But I do discuss the adaptation. If you don't get used to a mid-level progressive, the first thing I'm telling you to do is go to a high level. If you can't get used to that best progressives, you're probably aligned. And so their mentality here is, oh shoot, jump, get to the one that I can get used to. If I can't get used to that, I'm gonna have to go to aligned. So that does a couple things. It makes them think I better jump to the better one now, and I better get used to it, because my alternative is to get in that line bifocal that my mom's wearing. Upgrades and features, just know your products. I'm not going to go through all this stuff, but you guys know how to discuss them. Just know your products, make sure your staff knows the products, and make sure you guys are on the same page. That's one thing I think that really helped me and my success with capturing things and high utilization of upgrades, things like that, is my staff was very knowledgeable, and we were on very similar pages, which is great. One thing I'll also mention, and this comes up especially if there's budgetary conversation, is I tell the patient, especially we've talked about all this, the upgrades and features and the type of progressives, but it may come up where there's a budgetary restriction. I make sure they know, listen, spend the money on the lens first. If you go blow your money on a Versace and put your -9 in a CR39 uncoated drill mount, when you come back, you're going to remember we discussed this. So put your money in the lens first, because that's what performs. The frame only functions to hold the lens. That's it. And you may have caught this already a couple times, but discussing ways to save. I don't feel like I'm shooting myself in the foot. I'm maintaining integrity. Most of the time when you give these guys options on where you could save or where you can cut some costs here and there, they walk up the optical and they end up spending money anyway. Things like, hey, I want that second pair of sunglasses, but I'm not sure if the budget's there. I'll discuss things like clip-ons. Hey, we've got, you can get sunglasses and ophthalmic in the same pair of glasses. You can check out the clip-ons. There's a lot of different ways to do this, or even reusing a frame. Those type of things I think they appreciate. And again, you may not get that max sale now, but they'll be back next year, or they'll go out and just spend the money anyway. I also mentioned this as well, acknowledging cost benefit with premium products. I do this a lot. I break down that barrier by acknowledging, hey, this is not the cheapest option, but this I think is the best for you. Those type of things are I think work very well. Some patients just want you to tell them what to do. One of the things that I'll say is I do this a lot. I'll say, listen, in a perfect world, you're going to get this, this, and this. And I'll acknowledge, listen, it's, in a perfect world, if everything was free, these are the things that you would get. And they know what they need to do. And from there, they'll start there. And if there's a budgetary restriction or whatever, they'll start backing off. It's the same sales strategy that optical should use, is start high and start removing features from there. Too many choices are counterproductive. Read your patient. You guys know that the more things you tell them, the more things that they just are going to forget. So I think it's a good idea to sometimes summarize those things at the very end. And they'll also hear your handoff as well to the optician if you've got a good handoff. And I think I've alluded to this already. Sales pitches. If you come off as a salesman, you've lost that trust already. And so I come off as selling by educating. Really is what this is. Capturing the sales, finding unique ways to start the conversation. This is something I'm pretty good at. compliment them on their frame, which gets them into the conversation. It might be the comparison of old and new with refraction. It might be something later on in the exam. Maybe I mentioned their vision plan benefit, so I compares, and they mentioned, oh, well, I wanted this. Find a unique way to start that conversation, and it will come off as less salesman. Their pending decision versus your recommendation. We discussed this. Let them know what you think. If you're reading your patient and they want to know, let them know. But I think summarizing at the end of the exam is not a bad idea either. Mentioning the vision plan benefits, we talked about that. I know I'm over, guys, by 30 seconds or so here, but I want to mention this. I want to take 30 to 45 seconds to mention this tactic, and it's very, very beneficial to us over the years. Using a same-day sale tactics. I get a lot of patients will say, I'm not really sure I'm going to get anything today. I know they're single vision. I know I can knock out this pair of glasses today. I'll sneak that in there. Listen, my optician might be able to get this done for you today. I can't guarantee anything. Don't promise anything ever, but I put it in their head. They could walk out with something today. And guess what? Now they're looking at frames. Now they're asking questions. Very, very beneficial. Also, not only that, but you've got a multifocal patient. They've lost or broken their glasses. Putting them in a temporary single vision lens until their progressive comes in saves the sale. And not only that, but you're a hero. So that tactic is fantastic. And I can expand on that in Q&A later if we need to. The handoff. This could be its own webinar, but make sure you've got a good handoff and you and your staff are on the same page. That's it, guys. Not too far over, but if there's any questions on any of this stuff, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Everyone, if you're still on and you have any questions about anything from today's webinar, anything about selling from the chair, about anything Dr. Sturm discussed, or the handoff, for example, over to your optical staff, feel free to pop it in the chat box down here on Zoom. You should see it as a little button there. And if you click the little chat bubble, it'll pop up a little window dialogue for us to converse together. And if you go ahead and type any questions you have in there, I will relay them to Dr. Sturm and or Zeke, depending on who is the best expert for that question. And we will get all those answered for you. Candy asked, we don't take VCP. They don't take any vision care plans. So many RXs walk. Can anyone provide any help with that? Any advice there?
Same day stuff is the first thing that pops into mind. Hopefully you've got an edger and you've got if I was in your position, the first thing I would think about is I would have a very nice assortment of stock in-house. I'd max out, even if it wasn't, 5 different type of lenses, I would have the max power assortment possible so I can capture that sale. Because even if you're not putting them, in that lens, is I can still get you in that power. I can get you walking out the door in this lens today. And so you'd have to go through our stock lens assortments. It's probably there's a couple of them that go out to, I think, almost three sill Zeke, maybe even 4.
Yeah, you can get some up to 4.
Yeah. So Candy, in this situation, you'd probably even look at that last thing that I had mentioned on, maybe they've got maybe they lost or broke their glasses, or they came in with a multifocal and they needed something soon. That's an ability to capture that sale right there, because they can walk out the door with a solution, even if they have to come back to swap out for the actual lens that they purchased. But you're going to take care of them today. That'd be, I would say, suggestion 1. Suggestion 2, if you're not taking advantage of kind of the VSP out of network advantages, if you're doing that, I mean, VSP, it's just as easy as doing a cash pay, in my opinion. Some of the others are a little bit more difficult, Davis and IMED, but make sure that you have the VSP solution down for sure. Those would be my top 2 recommendations.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Dr. Sturm. So far, that's been the only question popped into the chat box. We'll linger for a little bit longer. I know it's always a little bit awkward for us to sit here on camera waiting for questions in the chat box, but we're more than happy to do it. But if we don't get another one here within the next 15, 20 seconds, we will probably tie off here, and I will get to work getting this pieced together for the replay in our support area in our knowledge base, so that you can rewatch it, revisit anything you want to, download Dr. Sturm's slides, shoot the link to any of your staff members. We'll also get an email out about that as soon as possible. And from what I could see, this is the lightest Q&A we've had so far. So either you did a really good job or really
That's what
bad.
I was thinking. That's where I was going with it, Ian. I left no questions unanswered, except for one.
So we will go ahead and wrap it up here, everyone. As is mentioned on Dr. Sturm's slide here, anytime you have any questions about this stuff, you can, even if it ends up getting kicked directly to Dr. Sturm, because he's the only expert on staff who can answer it, we're always happy to help. So don't hesitate to write us at support@TriPivotal. We're standing by to help set you all up for success any way we possibly can. We appreciate your time. We appreciate you joining us live, and we will get this replay uploaded and distributed via email within the next 24 hours. Thank you guys so much. Take care, and we'll talk to you soon.